Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so we can jump into this. All right. So first thing I want to show here, I want to pull back up is this frame, this wireframe. I want to get stuck in you guys' mind because this is what we're headed towards. This is the project we're working on, building this e-commerce website where people can browse some products. And this is our template, right? This is our structure. This is our skeleton. And we need to bring this to life. So this is our home page. Remember that this is our product page. This is the skeleton for our contact page. And then this is the skeleton for our About Us page. So we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And actually, we're going to do some real coding today. And for your homework, you're going to be doing some real coding. So this is going to be really fun. You guys are going to be downloading some software onto your computer and actually typing up your first program. So let's get this thing started. I'm going to start back off over in Code Academy. Shout out to everybody who got the homework done and even went further. 50%, 57% of the people, 58 actually did the homework. So for the 42 who didn't, you guys probably didn't, so you didn't get to it. So I'm going to go over some of it now, just a couple other lessons, and then go also ahead before we jump into some coding. Yeah, it's time. It's time to get it going. So as you guys know, when we left off before, we were talking about divs. Divs, like I talked about, is like one of the most important, most popular elements that you'll come across. And its main purpose is to be a container, to contain other elements, to help you organize the page and structure your page. So we're going to keep using divs. We're going to build on top of that knowledge as we go along. So I'm going to go on to lesson 7. And lesson 7 is about attributes. Okay, so we're going to talk about attributes a little bit today. So attributes, what they are is it's a way to give, it's these, like we said, characteristics that come with elements. Just like us as humans have characteristics like height or weight or eye color or hair type or skin color, whatever it may be. Those are our attributes. Elements have attributes too. So also one attribute that we all have, right, is a name attribute, right? My name is Antoine, and everybody else has their own name too. Now in HTML, if you want to give a name or ID, if you want to give an ID to an element, you use an attribute, and the attribute is called ID actually. So an attribute is pretty much made up of two things. You have a name and a value, okay? A name and a value. So if we want to name our element, we always just start off with ID equals, and then we put a value here. ID is, this is a keyword. So you have to use the word ID. And the way you do it is you put it right inside of your element. So let's say this is H1 and I wanted to name it. I can say ID equals, I put 2 quotation marks, and in between those, I name my element. I name what I want the ID to be. So I say this is called heading 1. So I can name it just that easy, right? The key thing that you want to keep in mind is that whatever value you give to this ID, to this attribute, it has to be unique. You only want 1 per web page, all right? 1 per page. So that's the key thing about this ID attribute. Is it's a way to make an element unique by giving it a unique name. Okay. So really cool. You can do it for any element. Any element you can give it an ID, right? You can give an ID to your body, and you can say ID equals quotation marks, my body. You see this a lot. And then later on, the key thing about this is later on, using JavaScript or CSS, we can manipulate that element based on the name. Just because it has a name, now we can tell the browser, go and get me this element by this name and do X, Y, Z. So I'm going to give you guys some examples today. Code Academy doesn't jump into CSS, but like I told you before, I'm going to go outside and teach you more than what they teach you. And I might teach you earlier than they teach you as well, because I believe you guys can handle it. So what I'm going to jump into right now is some CSS. So remember, CSS stands for cascading style sheets, right? Cascading style sheets. Pretty much meaning a document. It's just a section of code that is strictly dedicated to styling your HTML, adding some style to your HTML. If HTML is the skeleton, then CSS is the clothing, the meat, the jewelry, everything that makes it really come to life. Okay. So if we want to add some CSS to our web page, uh, one of the best places to put it, because you can put it in multiple places, but for now we're going to focus on one. One of the best places to put it is right up here in your head tag. So remember how I said every HTML document has HTML at the top, and then we have this head, and then in the head we have a style, right? We can create something called a style. So this is how you do it. I'll create another one. Actually, you only need one, so I'll just create one. The way you do it is it should be a child of the head element, right? So it should go inside of this head. And like I said earlier on, head just means it tells the browser to think ahead. I'm going to put some resources here, and later on, I want you to use those resources. So only thing you would put there is CSS stuff or JavaScript stuff. We'll be getting to JavaScript way later. Right now, we're just focusing on CSS. So let's add some CSS to our page. Okay. So we have to first open up our style tag. This tells the browser this is where the CSS is at. Later on, we can add a script tag, which means anything in between here is where we actually add our JavaScript. Okay. So JavaScript will go here, CSS will go here. So let me delete this because we don't care about JavaScript at the moment. Let's do some CSS. And this is how you do it. So in between these tags, we want to add what's called rules, CSS rules. So CSS rules are made up of these like properties, and I'm about to show you one right now, which pretty much define how some element should look, right? Should it be big? Should it be small? Should it be blue? Should it be yellow? Should it have a border? So far and so on. Okay. So right now, let me run this. So there's no CSS. So right now you see no colors over here. Like I just had, I deleted the CSS. So let's add our first rule. So what I want to say is introduction. Hashtag introduction. Curly bracket, close curly bracket, and then enter. That way I can start typing my stuff right here. So this is always going to be the format for when you want to create this here. Anytime you want to start adding this a CSS rule. So it's just hashtag, the name of the attribute, and then down here you put the properties. So let's say I want introduction to be color. Let's say purple. Okay. So I'll run this. And now you see purple text over here, right? You see the purple text about brown bears, species, features. What just happened was my CSS, when it found an element called introduction, which is down here, right? It's this div. And it says, make everything inside of that div, make the color purple. And that's what it did. It made this H2 purple, it made this H3 purple, and it made this H3 purple as well. Okay? So this is a way for you to manipulate your HTML using JavaScript. We can also say, you know what? Find an element called introduction and give it a border, 1 pixel, solid, green, semicolon. Run this, and I should see a border. Cool, there it goes. Now I see my border over here around that div. So this whole div now has a border. How did it know when to stop? How did it know when to stop what? The border or the color? If you're talking about wanting to know how to stop applying the color and the border, it's because of this closing tag right here. So the introduction tag only goes from here to here, right? It only goes from the start of this div to the end of this div. So only what's inside of this div will that color be affected by. Good question, really good question. Only will this div, which is introduction, have a border of 1 pixel solid. What I can do is now let me create another one. So look down here. We also have a div with an ID of habitat. Remember, you can name this whatever you want. It could be habitat 2, It could be habitat huge. It could be habitat number one. Whatever you want to name it, you can name this thing, okay? So this is called habitat. So let's go create another rule. We do hashtag, I paste that there, habitat, curly bracelet, curly bracket. There it goes. Now we can just type our rules here. So for this one, I want to make the color red, right? And that's our format. We always do property, value. This property is built in, okay? This property, which is color, is built in. This is a keyword. Border is a keyword. All right, red is also a keyword. It's one of the popular colors. So you'll be able to use any of the popular colors like red, black, blue, green, light green, so far and so on. Right? So if I click run, now you see all of the color is red for everything inside of this div. Make sense? Cool. So Bakura said I had issues with homework lessons 6 and 7. Okay, and this is number 7 right here. Yeah, so ask away. As you have those questions, just ask away so we can clarify everything. So that's pretty much it. So let me see. I'll add another one just so you guys can get used to seeing this. I can say, you know what, habitat div. I also want to add a border. I want this border to be 5 pixels. I want it to be dotted because there's a couple different ones you can use, and you don't have to memorize these. All right, you can Google CSS border types, and then it will give you a list of which ones you can use. And then I want this to be, let's say, red as well. Okay, click run, and here we go. Now we have a border that's red, that's pretty thick, and it's dotted, but it's only around the habitat div. Okay. So that's it. That's one way to really use IDs. So Code Academy introduced you to what an ID is, but they didn't really give you an example of how to use it. They just said, hey, make an attribute called ID, and that's it. I'm showing you guys how you can take it a step further and use that ID for something, actually put it right to use. And that's through CSS. All right. So pretty much we got these two languages talking to each other. All right. We got the HTML and the CSS communicating because of this in-between attribute called ID. So the ID attribute becomes really convenient. How specific is the terminology? If I was to say edge or surrounding instead of border, would it still work? Yes, it's very specific. So border is a keyword. You have to use that keyword. Okay, color is a keyword. You have to use the keywords that are built in. So that's why I say Google what you're looking for. Always Google it first. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I wanted to make my text all uppercase, right? I'll go over here, and what I'll do is I say CSS uppercase text. Look, Google already knows what I want. Pretty spooky, right? All right, so I go to W3C Schools because this is one of my favorite websites to check for answers. And then over here, boom, it tells me instantly how to do it. All right, it gives a definition and a breakdown. The text transform property controls the capitalization of text. All right, so now I know this is the keyword I need to be using. I go to text transform. I'm going to copy this. You can do uppercase as a value, lowercase, so you can make all your text lowercase in a specific section, or you can capitalize it, meaning just make the first letters capital. So I'll go back over here to my code, and now I want to make everything inside of the habitat div uppercase. Semicolon, click run, and boom, there you have it. Everything uppercase. Okay, so that's how it goes. You really don't have to memorize it per se. You just need to know what you're trying to accomplish, which I'll go back over here. I'll go back over here to our wireframes. We just know what we need to accomplish, and then later on we can Google how to pull it off. Like I need a big image. How do I make an image 400 by 600? Or how do I put my logo in the middle of the page? You know, how do I make my button have rounded corners? These are questions that you can Google and you'll get the answer for. And then you'll learn and pick it up as you go along and start memorizing some of this stuff. All right. Let me answer some questions from the crowd. All of this is after the HTML and head. Yep, it's after the HTML. Inside of the head, the style is a child of the head. The style is the child of the head. That rhymes. Maybe you can remember that. The style is the child of the head. Okay. And then you add your CSS rules inside of your style tags. All right. Ashley said, if you define an attribute in an element, will it override what you defined in the style? If you define an attribute in an element, not really sure. What are you talking about a definition like this here, like ID equals introduction? This is just the, okay, so this is a good way to think of it. This right here is just the, I would say, this is more so the definition up here. This is where we define it. So imagine going to a dictionary and you see the actual details of what a word means. These are the details of what it means. This down here is just like the keyword. This is just like the setting it up. We just set it up here, give it a name, and up here we give it some definition, if that makes sense. Do we have to use the space bar when we use div? Yep, use the space bar to indent. That way everything is next to each other. You indent like this. Yep. Can you do example using this? Remember to use your space bar to add 2 spaces of indentation when you nest elements. Yep, we have to do that. Thanks, Ashley. Inside of introduction, if you want H2 to be a green, would it override what you put in style? Great question. Great question. Yep, tab is okay. You can use a tab to indent as well. Okay, so Ashley is asking, right here we have introduction, right? In our introduction, we said we wanted all of our text to be purple. Remember up here, we said we want all of our text to be purple. Let's say we want to give an attribute to about brown bears. I can give it an ID, and I can say this is about brown bears. No spaces. If you're going to use multiple words, whatever you put in between here, no spaces. Okay. So about brown bears, I'm going to name this H2. And up here, I'm going to go and give it some definition. I'm going to say about brown bears, curly brackets. And I'm going to say I want the color to be brown. Okay. Now watch this. It's going to override what's inside of the introduction just for that one. So these are still purple, but this one is red. I mean, this one is brown. And why? The browser, the last one that it reads, this overrides it. Okay, so this has the top level permission, but the child can go ahead and make its own decision. So think of it as free will. Okay, think of it as free will. Like just how this is the parent. Okay, this is the child. The parent can say what it wants. It can say, I want the color to be purple. But at the end of the day, the child has free will to change and become whatever it wants, and that, which in this case, make its text brown instead of purple like the parent. So technically the style, this is what someone says in the crowd. So technically the style is put in after the body and everything is created to like dress it up. Yep. Yep. We're going to be using the CSS up here to dress up the rest of the web page. It's just kind of weird that the head comes first and then you have the HTML. So pretty much you defining the style first and then giving the HTML. But just think of it like this: that the style is defined and the browser starts adding these different elements. Every time it adds an element, it goes to check to see if it should apply any style to it. All right. So if we got H1, it checks for H1 styling. H2, check for H2 styling. Introduction, check for introduction styling. So that's just one thing that it's really, that's the kind of process that it's taking. Okay. I'll turn this fan down. Skeleton is yeah, it's pretty much the skin. The skeleton and the skin, you can say, are kind of like the same. And then the clothing, accessories, the hair, all of that stuff is the extra stuff. So just as a recap, the child elements can override their parent elements CSS. All right. Really, really useful feature just in case you want most stuff in here to be purple, but one section, just one section, you don't want to be purple. You want to be brown, or you want to be uppercase. Okay. So really convenient. And one thing I want to show you as well that's also convenient is, let's say you want every single H3 you have on your website to be a certain color or something specific about it. What you can do is up here, you can say, you don't have to type the hashtag, the pound. You can just type H3. And this is going to tell the browser that every single H3 I want you to do this for. So every single H3 I want to do, what do we want to do with it? I want to Google CSS italics. I want to make all of my H3s italics. Oh, so here it goes. I can do font style normal, font style italic, font style oblique. So let me try this. Copy and paste that right inside of here. Click run. And there you go. Every single one of my H3s now is italic. So this is really useful if you know ahead of time that you want to do a specific thing to all particular tags. So all P tags, all buttons, all images, you can just totally say, I want to make this global kind of rule that affects every single one of them. The ID, the one with the hashtag, this is for individual changes. If you want to make an individual rule for a specific element. So it's good to know both, for that way you know the power of each and know when to use each. You wouldn't want to go and put an H3. You wouldn't want to put an ID on every single H3 just so that you can make the font italics. It will become time consuming if you know you're going to just add italics to every single one. So instead, you can say, you know what, I want to make a global change and affect all of them the same way. Kimberly, let me know what is confusing and I'll jump in and try to help you out. Matthew, Ashley, if you place an inline style place directly on the element of your HTML, it would be overrearranged. Okay. Yeah, we'll get to hierarchy as well. Pretty much what Matthew is saying is later on we'll be able to add external CSS, so we can literally put all of our CSS in a separate file and then just import it into this current document. That's really useful because it's a way to keep your code super clean and organized. So we'll get to that as well. Great question, Kristen. Yes. The CSS, all HTML elements are in between these little brackets, right? These little brackets, but the CSS is all wrapped inside of these curly brackets, not angle brackets. So, but it's the same type of syntax, right? We're dealing with brackets and keeping things contained. That way we can tell what belongs to what. Great question. All right. So if you guys are feeling good, I'm going to jump on to the next section. I just want to make sure Kimberly's all right. I think we're all right. So yeah, just jump in anytime and I'll be sure to clarify anything you may need help with. But in a nutshell, that's attributes. There's a bunch of different attributes, right? We have IDs, which is what we just learned about here. Another attribute can be, let's say, width or height. There's a bunch of them, and I don't want to scare you with them right now, but what I can show you is, here you go. Oh, these are all CSS properties. So this is like the equivalence of like setting a color. You can set the underlining. You can center the text. You can make the text left. You can add shadow to the text. Give you an example. And like I said, this website is called W3C Schools. W3 Schools is really, really convenient. Open source, is free, and it does a lot of explanation on there for you. This is another property I'm adding right here to the CSS rule for H3. Pretty much I'm telling it to add text shadow to the back of every H3. So watch what that looks like. Looks crazy. Let me see, black. Pretty cool. Yep, W3 Schools. The space here, the space is just for readability. It does not have to be space here. It's really up to you. Sometimes I like to add the space just so that's little room. It's easier to read, but it's really up to you. All right, cool. So I just played around with this text shadow a little bit, add a little bit of background, a little backdrop to it. These numbers you can manipulate pretty much. We don't have to get into it right now. I'll show you guys what it means later, but just doing some cool stuff just to show you how you can tweak this. You really have complete control over your HTML. All right. So I'm going to the next lesson. The next lesson is about displaying text. So on this section, Code Academy focuses on the span tag and the P tag. I'm going to go even further and show you guys how to build on top of that, and tell you how exactly the importance of a span tag. So the P tag that we learned already is really useful if you want to make a big block of text. So if you want to make a big block of text, you use this P tag. Right. So on your web page, you may have a bunch of different sections that you need to put some text in, and this right here would be a good block tag. So it's cool. It's a good way to separate text. But let's say we give this this element right here ID, and I say, you know what, I want all of I want to get an attribute to it, and it's going to be called bare introduction, bare paragraph. Okay. So now up here in my CSS, I do bare paragraph, and I say I want all of the font style to be, I think it's italics. Is that the name of it? Click run. Oh, I messed that package up. What was it, guys? Is the semicolon to close the line attribute for CSS? Yes, it's the ended property, saying this is just one property, a part of this rule, ended right here. So just the color, italic. Oh, add the S. Yep, cool. So yeah, this just ends the line right here. That semicolon says, all right, that's enough. Anything you see after this, because if we wanted to, we could also put like font size right here, and it will be 10 pixels, right? And it still would know what to do. So you see my text got smaller because I said make it only 10 pixels. And then it's also italics. Let me make this a little bigger, 18. Okay, cool. But of course, for readability purposes, what we like to do is keep them on separate lines. But you can technically put them on the same line because the semicolon tells the browser where to end at. So it's really helpful. In Code Academy, if we do this, will it work? I am hands-on learner, sorry. Yes, if you do this in Code Academy, it will work. Yes. But just don't rush it right now, because you may get lost if you're trying to type in Code Academy right now while you're listening to me talk. It's better to just watch and listen, digest it, and then when you go back and watch the videos, you'll be able to pause and rewind and fast forward. Really cool bare paragraph. So now we were able to manipulate this entire paragraph. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something called a span tag. So a span tag is cool because it's if you want to manipulate a certain amount of text within a bigger body of text. So let's say I want the brown bear, right? I want to wrap it, just brown bear. I'm going to wrap it in a span tag. Okay, boom. So now it's wrapped in a span tag. And I want to give that span tag an ID so I can do something really specific with CSS. I want to do something really specific, so I need to give it an ID. And I'm going to call this brown bear span. Okay, brown bear span. So now if I click run, nothing changes. Nothing changes at all. The span tag is literally by itself, it does nothing. Okay, if you just put a span tag around something, you will see no difference. It's really just kind of like putting a little square around your text. But besides that, nothing else is there. You can't even see the square by default. You would have to add a border in order to see that square. So it's there just as a wrapper and a way to manipulate stuff later. So now it was later, and I'm going to add that a rule for that span tag. So hashtag brown bear span, curly brackets, and then I want to say make the color brown. Okay. Click run, and look, just the text brown bear is brown because I put a span tag around just that text, gave it an attribute ID, and then manipulated it with CSS. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody follow that? If you follow that, please type something below. Let me get it quick. Got it, understand, makes sense. Just so that way I know nobody's left behind. That's really key, I think, to me, is being able to use the span tag to manipulate just certain parts of the text. Cool. Thanks, Chris. Okay. All right. Yep. Everybody jumping in. Good. All right. Sweet. Glad it's clicking. Okay, cool. For the most part, I see everybody got it. Everybody's good. All right. If not, definitely feel free to speak up. So this is cool. I can go ahead and I can add more properties here. I can say I want the font weight. This is another CSS property. I want it to be bold. So this is saying make my font bold. So now brown bear is going to look a little bolder than the rest of the text. Really cool. You can add as many of these as you want. All right. You can add every single one if you need to. Okay. Let's say font size. We want it to be 25 pixels. Hit run. And now the brown bear, just brown bear is bigger. So CSS is detail orientated. Is that what you're saying, Samantha? So span contains short pieces of text or HTML. They are used to separate small pieces of content that are on the same line as other content. And that's a really great point. You see brown bear is wrapped in the span tag, but it's still on the same line here. If this was a P tag, which you could definitely do, you could put a P tag here inside of the P tag as a child. And if I click run, watch how everything goes on the next line. The brown bear, and then here we go. We have it. So it separated it. Why? Because like we talked about last session, if you remember, this is why I brought it up so early. P tags are block elements. They take up a whole line. So I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna add a border to that element. Border 1 pixel, solid, black. Right. So if I add a border and I click run, look, that border, it shows this element takes up the whole width of the page. Takes up the whole width. However, if this was a span element, I'll make it a span again. And run. Now look, that box only takes up what that part of the line. It only takes up how long the text is. That's it. It doesn't take up no extra, all of this extra room. So it's a convenient element if you want to keep things on the same line. Yeah, CSS is definitely very detail orientated, but that's the key. It's not really a takeaway if you think about it. I wouldn't call it a takeaway. If anything, it's a feature because now you get to, that's how we're able to add so many details to our web page. That's why there's so many unique looking web pages out there, is because people use CSS in different ways. So if we didn't have so many options with CSS, every website would look very, very much like the same, which is still happening anyway because people are finding out how to steal other people's templates that are really, really useful. Like how many Instagram clones do you see out there, or Snapchat clones do you see out there? Things like that. Like a lot of websites and apps are starting to look the same. But the key part is it's good to have options. That way you can add a lot of details. Oh, coding in general, yeah, definitely detail orientated. Um, but it's cool. It helps your mind. That's one thing I will say. It helps your mind. It's really good. It's good to start thinking uh, that it is detail orientated because it translates into your personal life as well. I catch myself being real detail orientated with certain things, and it helps me not miss things that may be right in front of me, or helps me be more efficient when it comes to time management because I'm thinking of the details. I used to I used to have a to-do list that had 20 things on it I'm gonna try to do today. And it's really just not realistic, right? When I start being more detail orientated and noticing, like, you know what, this one thing right here can take me 3 hours easily. Because one trip to the DMV is going to turn into also a gas station trip, stop at Walmart, waiting in line 45 minutes at the DMV. Uh, it just goes on. So it helps you start thinking that way too. And now when I talk to people, I'm always like, hey, let's think detail. Let's not just say we're gonna go on vacation next summer. Let's start planning this thing out. Let's really start planning out. What is that? What does vacation look like? How much money are we going to have to put together? Are we going to do a hotel, or Airbnb, find some family to stay with? Just start thinking everything in detail. So I think it helps you. I think it's a pro. It's just my opinion, but definitely a powerful skill set to have. So that's the span tag. That's the P tag. Nothing really much to it. I'm going to now, I don't think we need to go on here. We can get to the styling stuff later. What I'm going to talk about now is we're going to do some coding. So the coding that we're going to be using that we're going to be doing is inside of a text editor. Outside of Code Academy, like I said, all of this code in here. Oops. It's a code. This is the text editor that Code Academy gave us. We're going to download our own text editor onto our computers, and we're going to use this to do some coding. So the one I'm suggesting right now is Atom. If for whatever reason Atom isn't working for you, there's another one by the name of Sublime Text. I recommend both of them. They're both really, really good. They both work on Mac and Windows, but some people have been having a couple problems with Atom. So you can also just try to jump in and use Sublime Text. Also highly recommended as well. Look at this crazy code. You guys are going to be coding like that soon. But start off with Atom. See if you can use Atom first, because I think a majority of people will be using Atom. So if you ever need help or anything like that, with other people from other people in the community, most likely you'll be on the same text editor. But Sublime Text will work as well. If you have any problems downloading these when it comes to the homework, use the tech help channel on Slack to post your questions or concerns, and somebody will jump in and help you. So go ahead and download this onto your machine. Once it's downloaded, click the install, double click on the icon so it installs. It should be a pretty quick install. And then I'm going to open it up so you guys can see what it looks like. Stop sharing my screen. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you can definitely download both and you could try both and then see which one really, really works out for you. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. Ooh. Okay, let's go over here to screen 2, share. Okay, so this is Adam, how it looks when it first opens up. Okay, just a little welcome area. They can take you to some documentation if need be, and it's really cool. It's really cool. So let's go through it. Let me show you the importance of how this works. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building a little really thank you. I knew you too, Kristen. We're going to do a really basic web page. Okay, just something really basic. This is going to be fun. So first thing I want to start with doing is I want to open up a your file explorer. So if you're on Windows, your file explorer is this cool thing right down here, right? And this is where all of your files live. What we're going to do is we're going to be going inside of documents. I want you to create a folder called Unlock Academy. Okay. This is where all of your projects are going to live because you're going to create a bunch of little different projects. You're going to be testing stuff out. I want you to create them all right inside of here. Replace the file. Okay. And then what I want you to do is, they both are free. Atom and Sublime Text are free. So folder, what I want you to do here, I want you to create a new folder right in this inside of this document, inside of your Unlock Academy folder. So folder, I want to name this First Test. Okay, First Test. I open up First Test. Oops. I just create that by mistake. I don't even know what happened. Sorry about that. Continue. Sorry guys, this acting weird. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to close out this first. Oh, don't save. Okay. Go to Unlock Academy. Delete this. Okay. Let me close Atom first. That folder doesn't want to close for me because I have Atom open. All right, there we go. So sometime if you try to delete a folder and it won't delete, that's most likely because some other program is still using it. So if you let's say, for example, you got a project open in Atom, you need to close Atom first if you want to delete that folder because it won't be able to delete it as long as something is there also accessing it. So we want to name our folder First Test. All right, that's it. Just something really simple. All right, inside you'll see nothing is there. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go back. I'm going to open up Atom again. Okay, here it comes. Will all of this be in the notes and or the computer work file? Yes, and you'll be able to watch the replay video as well. Okay, so now here we go. Oops. Cool. So as you see, I just opened up. What you can do is you can open up folder over here in Atom. Click open up folder. And then it's going to open up your documents and you can go over here and try to find your folder. Unlock Academy, First Test. All right, just select the folder. That's it. Now what we can do is we can go over here and select create new file. So new file, right? It's a blank file. So remember what I said before. Every single one of our documents is going to start like this. All right, we're going to start just like this. Doc type HTML, which just says use the latest version of HTML. HTML open, HTML close. I'm going to do a head open, head close, body open, body close. All right. So that's the very basics that we need. You don't need an account for Atom. You just open it up and it starts working. You do not need to sign into anything. And it's all your account. It's all yours. There's no account needed. So this is just the basics that we need to get started, right? I'm going to press File, Save. I want to save this document. And once we save it, then it'll start being recognized as an HTML document because we're going to name it. So make sure you're inside of your first test folder and then name this file index.html. All right. Index just tells the browser that this is the home page. Every website that you go to, the home page is named index.html. Okay. So just do index.html and click save. And then as you see, we get some color coordination start jumping up in there. So really helpful. Now we're going to get some color help and also some autocomplete stuff. If I wanted to add something here like a H1, it kind of already knows and it gives you some options of some things that you can add. So really cool text editor, but there's a bunch more features that we haven't even gotten to yet that are going to really be helpful as well. So what I want to start off with is we're going to be focusing on, we're going to create a new element today called the image element. Okay. So let me show you guys how it gets started. But first I want to break this up into some sections. So I want to have two sections on this website. I'm going to have a two divs. Let me see. Okay. That's one div section. Then I'm going to create another div section, right? In this div section, we're going to name this ID equals Africa section. Remember, divs are literally just to separate elements, just a container. All right. So we're going to name this Africa section over here. We're going to name this China section. All right. We're going to put some content inside of here for Africa and some content inside of here for China. So let's go over here. Let's add an H1 that says, "Hello, Africa." Right. I'm going to close that H1 and then I'm going to save. You can save with Control S. If you're on Mac, that's Command S. All right. And then you come up here or you can come up here and do File and Save. So now if we want to run this, if we want to see what this looks like, the easiest way to do it is to go over to your folder where this project lives. Right click on the file index.html. And when you right click, what you want to do is you want to try to open it with a browser. So we want to open this with one of our browsers. I'm going to open this up with Chrome. Okay. I want to open this up with Chrome. So I click Google Chrome and I'll show you guys what popped up. Here we go. So there we go. Now we see our website, Hello Africa, which came from this code right here in this H1 tag, Hello Africa. Control S, yes, Control S is how you save with a keyboard shortcut. Okay, so really simple, Hello Africa, nothing complicated to it. Let's say I also wanted to say inside of here, hope all is well. Right, save that. Hope all is well. But you know what? I want hope all is well to be a specific color. So I'm going to wrap it in a span tag like we just did earlier. All right. Secondly, I want to give that span tag an ID so I can manipulate it with CSS. I'm going to call it the hope span. And then up in my head, I'm going to create a style element. This is where we're going to put our CSS at. And then now over here, I can start typing my CSS. So I can say hope span. And then hope span, I want the color to be green. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't close my head tag. Hope span, I want the color to be green. Let's see how that looks. Control S to save. Go and refresh in your browser, and there you go. Now you see the green text. So really cool, right? Really convenient. We're seeing how we can bring all of these elements together, okay? And remember to nest so everything stays neat, and it's easy to see how things are nested, okay? So next, what I want to do is I want to add an image element. So there's two big things about image elements. You can either reference images that live on the internet somewhere, or reference images that live local on your computer, like right within your project folder. We're going to try both. Okay. So let's start off with adding an image element that goes and gets an image that lives on the internet and displays it on our web page. So the image element is just the IMG, right? And it's a self-closing tag like this. So you don't need two tags open and close. It's self-closing. So only thing you need is this right here, the IMG / close bracket. All right. So that's the bare minimum. Now, if you actually want something to show up, if I do this, nothing's going to show up, right? Because we didn't define what the image is. So right here, what we have to do is we have to give this image element an attribute so that way we can define what image should show up inside of this image tag. To do so, what we have to do is give it an attribute called source, SRC. Okay, so source equals and then 2 quotation marks. So pretty much source is saying where's the image source at? Where am I getting this source from? And what you want to do here, you want to put a URL either to a remote image on the internet or a local image on your computer. So, okay, Gayla, yeah, we're going to get through it now. You're going to understand what images are and how they work. So the source attribute is mandatory for the image. Without a source, you can't even show an image. So it's mandatory to put this on an image tag. Now let's go get a remote image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say images from Africa. Gotta sip my wine, guys. I'm over 21 years of age. I'm over 21A. I'm over 21A. Okay, so here goes some images. And I want to find a cool image that I want to put on our website. This looks nice. Okay, so now what we need is we need this image address. Okay, we need this image address. So what we want to get is you want to go to your image, right? I'm inside of Chrome. I'm inside of my browser, and I just searched up images. So the image that I got, I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna do copy image address. This is the button that you want to click, copy image address, not copy link address. This link address is just where the image links to, what page it links to. That's not what we want. We want the image address, where it actually lives at. So you can click this and it will be automatically copied to your clipboard. Another way to get this URL is to say open image in new tab. So if I click open image in new tab, the image comes over here and opens up here. And now up here in the URL bar, we actually see the URL for that image. So I double click it. I'm going to copy it. Now it's on my clipboard. I go back over here to my HTML. And what I want to do is I want to update my source attribute. And I want to Control V or right click, paste. Paste it right inside of it. So it's a long URL, but here it is. Okay. There you go. So save that there. And when I go back to my web page now, and I click run or I refresh the page, ta-da, there's my image. So that's it. That's how you add an image to a web page. IMG, you give it a source, and you just make sure that it's closed. So Melanie asked a really good question. Melanie said, can you download an image and put it in? Like, can you reference an image that you downloaded? That way, if someone takes it off the internet, it'll still be on your webpage. Yes, very, very important, right? And that's what we're going to do in a second. I'm going to show you guys how to do that as well. So let's say that did happen. We're using this image off of the internet. Let's say somebody removes it, or let's say I mess up the link name and I put something like that. I delete some of this stuff, whatever happens, and now the name is wrong. If I go over here and I try to refresh the page, you see that there, a broken image. That's what we have. It's broken. It doesn't really exist because the browser can't find this link. I messed up that link by deleting that thing. So what you want to do is you can always add what's called an alt attribute, ALT. Alt stands for alternative. A picture of Africa. So pretty much I'm saying this is the alternative text I want to show up just in case this image stopped working. Just in case this image stopped working, I want you to now show this text. So I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna delete some of this, mess up that link, go back to my browser, click run, and now you see a little bit of description here as well. So this is just a way, kind of like a courtesy to your users to say, oh, I'm sorry, my image isn't working, but here's a description. All right. It's also the case if, let's say, the person has really bad internet and they can't load images on their web page. Well, the image won't load, but at least the description can still load. The alternative description can still load. So it's a useful feature to add. Also, Google looks at these descriptions right here when it comes to when it goes to each web page and kind of like starts taking notes about where images live on and on what web pages. So it's good for what's called SEO, search engine optimization. I want to know how to put an image you load from your phone on your laptop. Ask that question on either in the tech help channel or ask that tomorrow at the enhanced tutoring sessions. We're going to have tutoring sessions on Thursdays where you can ask any questions you want. Okay. So ask that question then, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Okay, so let me fix this image back. Cool, we got that. Over here, run this, our image is back. Okay, cool. Now I want to show you how to do it. Same thing with a local image. Let's say we're down here in China section. I want to make an H1 called Hello China. Close that up. Okay. And then let's make an image tag, IMG, SRC, 2 quotations, and we're going to close it up. All right. I'm also going to add my alt tag now because I know this is going to be a picture of China. Okay. Cool. So now let's get us an image for China. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to download an image from China. Something that represents China. All right. Let me see if I can find something that looks cool. This mountain looks really, really nice. I want to find something a little bit. This one looks nice as well. This looks freaking great. This looks great. So now what you want to do is you want to actually download this image. You don't want to copy the link address. You don't want to open in a new tab and copy the address from the URL bar. What you want to do is you want to go to right click and do save image as. So I do save image as. A window is going to pop up asking me, what do I want to save it as? And I want to name it. First, you say what you want to name it. I'll say China image, right? Just put China image. That's it. Just put the name of it. You don't have to put an extension. It will automatically add the extension because this may have been a PNG or a GIF or a JPEG, whatever the file type may be. The browser will automatically add it when it downloads it. So now I just want to make sure I save it in the right place. So I go to Unlock Academy, go to First Test, and I notice that I don't have an images folder. So what I can do is I can right click and say New Folder and name it Images, lowercase I, Images. Now I have a folder to put just my images. Go inside of that folder, click Save, and now it has been downloaded into my images folder. I can go and check that by going over here to my little browser, my file window, my file explorer, and clicking on images. And now I see that my image does live local in my first test project inside of images. It's sitting right there. Okay, so really cool. It's in our project now. It's in our project, so we're halfway there. Now what we have to do is we have to reference it inside of our code. So I'm over here in Atom again. Look over here to the top left hand corner. We can see our project structure. So we have our first test folder. Inside of that folder, we have an images folder, which has a file called chinaimage.jpg. And then we also have our index.html. Okay. So we have everything we need. Our index is right next to our images folder, if you notice. So if something is right next to it, you don't have to do anything special. Only thing you have to do is say the name of the folder. So in this case, images slash, and then you want to give the name of the file, chinaimage.jpg. And I'm going to click save. All right. So now when I go back over here to my browser, click run. Ta-da. There we go. We got Hello China, and we got this big image right here. So now we know two ways how to access and display an image on a website. We can do it by adding a remote URL, or we can add it by using a local URL. Okay? If that makes sense, let me know. Let me get a shout out. Say it makes sense, or you got it. I wish you could do some emojis over here. I've seen somebody do emojis before. But yeah, either way, I guess if you're on your phone, maybe. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If this makes sense. Cool. Kimberly got it. Brittany got it. Okay. All right, sweet. Gayla, Kirsten, Mac, Melanie, Andre, Samantha. Can't wait to try it. All right, cool. Yeah, this is going to be the homework. So one more thing I want to add before we get to that, and I just want to once again show you how we can manipulate even images with our CSS. All right, cool. I already got it. So we can do ID. I want to give an ID to my image, and this is my Africa image. So I'm going to name it Africa image. Okay. So now I can copy this ID name, go up here to the top, and I can say hashtag or pound Africa image, curly brackets, and then I can start adding my CSS properties. Okay. Yeah, no rush to apply and listen at the same time. Believe me, there's magic in just listening, understanding, and then trying later on. It's easy to it takes longer. I've done both. I've done it to where I sat in a class, even as learning or teaching, where people go, they type as the teacher's typing, and it's way slower. We wouldn't be able to get as much done in time as we can do right now if you guys do it on your own. Right now, it's important to understand first, because what happens is if not, you're not in class to understand. You're in class to follow along, and literally you're just typing up what somebody else is typing, and it starts to click, but it takes longer to click. Right now, the key thing is just to get the idea, get the concepts. But if you need two screens, let's talk about that too. Right now, I'm on two different monitors. You guys notice me looking over a lot. I have two screens as well. It's really useful for coding. So right here, I have one thing and something else over here. So I can have my code here, and I can have my browser over here. So as I make changes, I can see them refreshing over here. So let me add a CSS property. I want to say you can manipulate the width of an image. So I want the width to be, let's say 600 pixels. And you can also manipulate the height. So I want the height to be, let's say 200 pixels. Right. So what it should do is should go to this image and change the width and height. Let me check and see if it did. Reload. There we go. We see Africa changes. You know what? I want to make the same exact change for China image. All right. So this one says China image this time. I want you guys to get used to typing it, but just remember, like as you get really good, you'll be able to just go in here, copy and paste it, change the name, go and refresh, and boom, there you go. So that's it, guys. That's what I wanted you to show you guys, how you can download a text editor, add some code to it. We have our basic structure with our HTML head, body. We even now add the style elements to it, which allows us to define CSS. And then also we even know now how to create image elements. Pixel sizes are, someone asks, what's a good resource to learn pixel sizes? Pixel sizes are like really hit and miss. It's better to just try. You'll get used to an idea of how big something is, and then you'll just wing it from there. It's the main thing is that pixels are different per screen. So if you have a real high definition screen you're looking at, pixels make they're a lot smaller than they would be on a bigger screen that's kind of like outdated or something like that. So it's better not to, you won't be able to memorize it. It's better to just try it, throw a number out there, see how big it is, and then change it from there. But like, you know what? Never mind. I don't want this to be 200. I actually want to see how it looks as 300. Go back, and that's what it looks like as 300. Okay, that looks cool. Quadir asked a really great question. He said, if you gave the same ID, could you make changes to both at the same time? You're not supposed to give, your ID is supposed to be unique. There should be only one element with that ID, with that unique ID name. So there shouldn't be two hope spans. There shouldn't be two Africa images. There shouldn't be two China images. What we could do is we could just say, instead of this right here, I'm gonna delete that, okay? I'll delete that. And instead, what I'm gonna just say is IMG. And I'm gonna say, this is pretty much saying every single image, make it 600 pixels in width, and then in height, make it 200 pixels. There you go. So now, that stops me from having to type all of this. I only have to type it once here. But this gives you more control. That way, if later on you wanted to change this one, you don't have to even touch this one at all. This right here does not give you more control. It's more global, and it affects more than one element at once. So you can't give the same ID to more than one element. What we will talk about soon is something called the class selector. So instead of giving something ID equals, you can say class equals. And class will be able to allow you to add, it doesn't have to be unique. So you can have as many hope spans as you want. If this said class equals hope span, you will be able to use that same thing as many times as you want. So it just means class in the sense of a certain class of something. So it's like a group. So we'll get to that later on. Don't worry about it. But class is very, very popular. Very, very powerful as well. So we'll get to that. Kian, I'm not sure which part you're referring to. Saying same image but different ID. So yeah, these are, this is the image right here with the ID of Africa image. And then this is an image here with the ID of China image. And we can manipulate these and make them look different however we want, or make them look the same. Okay. So that's really it, guys. That's my lesson for today. For the homework, which is going to be in the homework channel, you're going to be recreating this here. You're going to be doing some Code Academy lessons. And then you're also going to be working on a small little programming game to help you continue thinking like a programmer. So check out that document, go through that step by step. And if you have any questions, post those questions on Slack. So Kiana said, same name, image, same image, but different ID. Yep, exactly. Yep, different IDs, China and Africa. Cool. Any questions, guys, before we jump off of here? Really, really good, really productive class. I'm feeling this right here. I like how you guys all followed along. Asked some good questions along the way. Nothing too crazy, right? Nothing too crazy.